Hey, bestie. It's time for your next session of Real Talk Friend Therapy with your favorite big sister auntie queen, Daysha Veronica. Hey, y'all. Welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing week so far and that the meditation episode has been really helpful for you. Actually, so my best friend Becky, who is also a producer on this project, gave me the greatest badge of honor this week when she said that listening to that episode made her want to try meditation. So Becky is not into astrology, meditation, or anything woo-woo like at all. But I've always loved how we both have a mutual respect about our beliefs on stuff like that. Like, I will talk about it with absolutely no pressure on my part for her to believe in it, just like she will let me talk about it without making me feel crazy or silly. And I just love that because I think in our current social climate, the idea of people being able to be friends with differing views on the world seems so impossible. And listen, this is not me saying that we should be embracing people who negate our existence. Like, trans women are women, Black Lives Matter, and bigger people are humans who deserve to be treated like human beings. But when we're just talking about interests like astrology, religion, sports, or even certain aspects of politics, I actually find it kind of enriching to have people in my friend group who believe in different things. And apparently I'm not alone. So I've been reading this amazing book called We Should Get Together, The Secret to Cultivating Better Friendships. And it was written and very beautifully illustrated by a woman named Kat Velos. And I am just obsessed with this book. And so I will actually be leaning on it a lot in this episode today. But she has a section on values that I'd love to read for you. Although it's common for friends to share the same values, it's not necessary. And just to jump in for a hot second with some context, so Kat developed this book to dig into what it means to be a friend. What does that mean? And that's actually a lot of what this episode is about today. And she decided to do this survey amongst her community to figure out what people thought it was, what friendship meant to them, and then kind of take all of that data and make conclusions based on what she was seeing in people's thoughts. So you'll hear mention to the survey that she did. And now jumping back into the quote, the majority of the people I surveyed said that when it comes to opinions, background, beliefs, politics, religion, ideology, and worldview, they prefer for their friends to either be a little different, and that was 81%, or meaningfully different, and that was 17% from themselves. And a few of their reasons for this include common ground and opinions are valuable, but I won't learn anything new or gain novel perspectives if I'm only surrounded by those exactly like mine. I don't like living in an echo chamber. My friends and I have many things in common, but I do actively seek out friendships with people who differ from me in background, belief, or personality type. I have a diverse mix of friends, including agnostic, Muslim, Catholic, Jewish. We talk about different religions and how we have similar morals and ideologies. And lastly, having different people in my life means I'm challenged in a safe way. And I really like that one because as a Black woman who also has many other diverse aspects to my identity, it doesn't bother me. And I'm gonna make this clear. I'm talking about just me, okay? But it doesn't bother me to have conversations with white people or, okay, let me say non-Black people or anyone outside of the culture about beliefs or experiences that are new to them. But I want to be clear that there is an emotional labor that happens within these conversations, especially for those who are of marginalized experience. So I'm only going to engage in that labor for people that I know, like, and trust. And even then, sometimes I might not, depending on where my bandwidth is that day. And so even though this isn't my favorite response, when people tell you to go look on Google instead of engaging with you, I get it. They're not being antisocial or rude, even though I know it feels that way. But if the safety is not there, let me tell you, I am not challenging no one until the government learns how to Venmo over the back pay I'm owed on dealing with racist, sexist, queerphobic shenanigans. or we become friends and I know you're open to having your beliefs challenged. And I'll say for me that part of the reason why I like having people in my friend group who challenge my beliefs or believe differently than me is that I actually find that it makes me more clear about why I believe what I believe. Because okay, so I'm going to take y'all on a little journey. I will never forget in college, I took this organizational psych class, and my professor said that all human beings are cognitive misers. And a cognitive miser is a fancy way of saying that as human beings, when we learn something, you can think about it like being a seed. And from that seed develops branches of understanding that communicate with other branches that are called synapses. Okay, you still with me? All right. So in the case of gender, many of us grew up with this core seed of an idea that men have penises and women have vaginas. And from that core idea, we learned that women wear dresses and men wear pants, and that women like pink and boys like blue, and women are soft and men are tough, and so on. And so when we are faced with an idea that challenges that core seed that we had implanted, which in this case is that our gender is determined by our sex, what can make people so resistant to this new way of thinking is because you're not just asking them to throw out the core seed. You're also asking them to throw out all the branches of understanding that came from that seed. So the reason why we're faced with so much resistance when offering a new way of thinking is because humans prefer to err on the side of simplicity more than complexity, and asking someone to throw out all those branches of understanding can be too complex for a lot of people. And so that is kind of the basis of what being a cognitive miser is. And I'll say that learning that has actually helped me to have a little more compassion for people who believe differently from me, because we have to remember that so much of how we understand the world is based on who raised us, what communities we grew up in, what access to education and resources that we had, what experiences we had. And so none of this is an excuse for people who are arrogant and destructive in asserting their beliefs, but I think it can be really helpful to understand when faced with resistance. And again, while we are all cognitive misers when being faced with new ways of thinking, I don't believe that we're limited to staying that way. And that's actually what makes us human beings, our ability to be more complex and nuanced. But when I think about it in this framing, it allows me to be like, oh yeah, like who wants to think about complex thoughts on their off time? You know, no one. I actually had an experience where, I live in a new town, and I emphasize town because, and this could be just because now I'm in this town or because I'm just getting older, but we have a new grocery store that just opened and I've been so excited about it. It's like, I don't know if someone should have this much excitement for a grocery store. So I wanted to go to the grand opening. And I will say my motivations for going to the grand opening were for the swag bag. And this is where the town thing comes in to play. This wasn't a fair, y'all. I just thought I was going to get my swag bag, get some groceries, and leave. Like, this was like, the line to get into the store was unbelievable. Like, there was a person camped out at 11 p.m. the night before for a grocery store opening. And so I met these two older women, and they very much schooled me that anything new that opens in the town, like, it is a town affair. They'll have the high school marching band. Like, it is a thing. So I learned a lot as a city girl. And so we were having a conversation just about the town, how long they had been there, how long I had been there. And at a certain point, the conversation transitioned into one of the older women revealing that they had a grandson that transitioned into a granddaughter. And it was clear from her tone and her misgendering that she was having a hard time with that. So as soon as she does this, I go into my head and I'm just like, oh my God, like, I hate that you're misgendering your granddaughter. I want to call this out, but at the same time, I just met you. Emotional labor. Don't know if this is worth it for me or not. I just came here for some yogurt and a swag bag. It's also 7 a.m., so what the fuck? And then, she did something that I didn't expect, which is that she corrected herself. And she did it with disdain, but she did correct herself. And it was this moment of reckoning for me about what complexity looks like. We don't change our beliefs overnight, but I think what was, I'm trying to find the right word here, because I want to say beautiful, but that's not really it. I think what was impactful about the moment for me is just that, like I could tell that there was a lot of love there, even though that this was very challenging and that she is not necessarily with it. The fact that she, again, and it was immediately, she corrected herself. I think it just shows how love is such a key centerpiece to how we are able to learn new ideas that are hard for us. And I don't mean it in this cheesy way, like this love is the answer, wall decor kind of way. I don't mean it like that. But I do believe that when we are challenged by those that we love first, it can make us a lot more willing to engage in new ways of thinking that we probably wouldn't have been otherwise. And when you think about it as the seeds and branches analogy, it also helps at least me to be more patient with people whose first reactions to different ways of thinking are negative or rejecting, because trying to broaden someone's understanding of the world, again, is not as simple as just changing one thought, but a very complex network of beliefs that are associated with that thought. And also, I just want to say that while I might sound like a Zen mommy right now, catch me on the wrong day or with the wrong wording, and I might not be so patient and chill. And so while I want to help you with information that helps me, I also do not want y'all to think that I'm perfect, because Lord knows I am not. For me, I've learned it's all about bandwidth and knowing yours and where you're at and how to communicate that. But I will say what has been so key in my relationship with Becky and our ability to maintain a relationship while also having differing beliefs on the world is that we both have an immense amount of respect, love, and curiosity for each other. I find that when we state something that we believe or have an experience that is foreign to the other person, instead of being judgmental or aggressive with our views, I've noticed that we're actually very curious about how we came to that understanding and then respectful of why we think that way. And I'll say for me, as the person that tends to believe in the more questionable things like astrology and tarot, I also don't need her to believe in those things. Again, it's an honor that I could help her see meditation in a new light, but even if I didn't, her lack of belief does not impact my belief, because I know why I believe in it and what it has done for me. And this is just my opinion, but I find that people who are more aggressive in asserting their beliefs and need the people in their life to believe what they believe are often operating from a place of either insecurity, manipulation, or selfishness, or not a deep enough understanding of why they believe this thought. It might be something that they grew up with, but now that it's being challenged by someone else and they don't really know why they believe it, it's triggering fear and anxiety in them. Okay, so now I'd love to segue us into today's episode topic, which is, what the hell is friendship? What does it mean when we enter into a friendship with someone? Are all friendships created equal? And how can we get more clear about the type of friendships that we have with people? I always love to ground my understanding of a word with a dictionary definition. And a few years ago, I actually wrote a blog post that I will link to in the show notes, digging deeper into the root word of friend. Merriam-Webster defined friend as a person who you like and enjoy being with, a person who helps or supports someone or something, such as a cause or a charity, one attached to another by affection or esteem, one that is not hostile. Okay. And then one that is of the same nation, party, or group. Interesting. And vocabulary.com defined a friend as your buddy, your pal, your amigo, which is just the Spanish word of friend. So, okay. Your comrade, someone you like and trust enough to hang out with on a regular basis. A person you know well and regard with affection and trust. An associate who provides cooperation or assistance. A person with whom you are acquainted. Not sure how I feel about that one. And a person who backs a politician or a team. Okay. Now, as you can see from these very varying definitions of the word, it's no wonder that we're all so confused on what it means to be a friend. Because if a friend can be defined as a person with whom you like and trust, and also be considered just a person with whom you're acquainted, those meanings are so at odds with each other. And I think that part of this confusion rests in how lazy of a language English can be. I mean, literally the past tense of to read is the same word pronounced differently. Like, what are we doing as a language? I don't know how people learning English as a second language do it. But yes, I think that the laziness of the English language has really muddled the nuance that exists in our unwritten understanding of the word friend. Okay, hilarious story time. So I had a friendcation last week, or I think 2 weeks ago now, or anyway, in the past couple of weeks, I had 3 of my closest friends from high school stay at my house for a week. And one of my friends, she has basically ditched America for Germany. She's been living over there for about 10 years now and has no intention of ever moving back to the States. And so Becky and I were having a meeting, and she asked the group of us how many close friends we'd say that we have. My friend Kendall said around 20, 25, and my other friend Dee said around 8 to 10. But my friend Rachel, who's the one that moved to Germany, was like 3 or 4. So Kendall is the brave one and asked the hard question of whether or not we were included in that number, since there were 3 of us, me, Dee, and Kendall. And Rachel very bluntly said no. I'm sorry. It was such a funny moment. But when I asked them to elaborate further as to what it meant to be a close friend, my friend Rachel made it very clear that her definition of a close friend is someone that she is in constant communication with, someone that you talk to every day and are very present in each other's lives, which isn't our communication style. I'd say like in the past couple of years, we've been getting better. We have like these like monthly group chats that we'll have over Google Chat and stuff like that. But, you know, I respect my place. I appreciate the clarity. And for my other friends, their idea of a close friend was more similar to mine, which is that you don't always need to be in communication with each other, but, you know, if something serious happened or we just wanted to reconnect, we could do so. And it's like no time has been lost. And even though for how awkward it was awkwardly funny, I actually love that we had this conversation, although I know Rachel probably doesn't, because now we roast her all the time about being her best acquaintances. But again, it shows that our understanding of friendship, or what makes someone a close friend over an acquaintance, is not only unclear, but can also be very varied based on the cultures that we live in and grow up in. Friend has basically become a catch-all term for both the important and the vague relationships that we have in our life that are non-sexual or non-familial. And I think this lack of clarity is part of the reason why people can feel like they have no real solid connections in their lives. So I want to try and fix that. When we look at the definitions that I gave, the words that really stand out to me are trust, enjoyment, affection, communal interests, support and assistance, and regular interaction or presence. And in addition to these words, I also had a few that I wanted to toss in the mix based on what I've read and personally experienced in successful relationships. So show up when we need them, have a generosity of spirit, offer you their time, their love, and their energy in an altruistic manner, have a sense of curiosity about you and your life, can be lovingly honest, you feel comfortable to be your truest self around them, and they respect you. So when I initially wrote my blog post, I came up with a definition mixing together all of these elements, which was a person whose presence we have come to trust, enjoy, and find comfort in being around on a regular basis due to the generosity and consistency of their behaviors and actions in our greatest time of need or hurt. And now I would also add celebration. Thus, we have deemed them worthy of our time, our love, our respect, our curiosity, our honesty, our assistance, and our energy. But now looking at it, I think that this definition better fits how we could define a best friend, or what I'm calling a ring one friend. So a few years ago, there's this mental health app called Real that I joined, and they used to offer these mini courses on aspects of well-being that people might want to learn more about. They've since reformatted how the app works, and these courses were taken away, and I am so broken up about it. But at the time, they had a course on friendship that I took, and they taught me how to think about friendship as rings. So I'm gonna tell y'all now that basically how I would do these courses is that I would listen to them, and then I knew I wanted to go back and take notes later. Life was lifing, never got back to take the notes. So I vaguely remember the rings theory, but I didn't have anything definitive on it. So now I'm kind of just making it up as I go because I really liked the framework, and I still think that this framework that I've created kind of gets to the gist of what they taught. So ring one friends to me are what we would call our best friends. The friends we call first when a loved one dies, or we call first to celebrate a major milestone like getting engaged or being pregnant. So back to Kat Valis's book, We Should Get Together. She has this amazing framework for thinking about friendship that is called the seeds of connection. She believes that when we enter into a friendship with someone, it is usually because at least one of these four elements are present, and that is compatibility. So this consists of our chemistry, the way we communicate, the lifestyle we live by, and our values, among other things. Then there's proximity. This is how close we are geographically, how often we can cross paths and share space together physically. The next one is frequency. This is how often we make time to hang out to build fondness and familiarity. And then lastly, there's commitment, which is our sense of openness, caring, trust, dedication, and reciprocity for a relationship. So thinking within this framework, ring one friends are friends that we definitely have compatibility with. We have a strong level of commitment and some level of frequency. But, and this is my personal opinion, you don't need to necessarily have proximity. Although I think to get to this place, you at least had to have close proximity at one point in time. And this is where there could be cultural differences, and I respect that. For instance, with Rachel, we saw that proximity and frequency were actually very key in her assessment of what would make someone a ring one friend to her. For me, key elements that I want to call out that I think a ring one friend has over any of the other friends are trust. You trust that if you're in need, they will show up, that if you are celebrating, they will be the first one at the party, and if you are struggling, they will be right there to help you figure it out. The next element is curiosity. They're actually interested in you and what you bring to the world. They ask questions about your passions, your family, how you came to view the world. With this, I also see it as a form of investment in you. You know that they are not just there to be heard or to take from you, but to also hear you out and be a provider to you as well. And then lastly, unconditional reciprocity. And here I emphasize unconditional because, reciprocity kind of exists in all the relationships that we have. It is that if you scratch my back now, I'll definitely scratch your back later. And, with our parents, it's if you raise and take care of me now as a baby, I will raise and take care of you when you're older, or I shouldn't say raise, but take care of. And with our partners, it might look like if you do the dishes tonight, I will do the dishes next time. Now, some people might argue that adding in unconditional is redundant, that it's already baked into the idea of reciprocity, but personally, I don't. I think that as humans, we aspire to be unconditional, but that a lot of us actually not only expect, but demand that the people in our lives pay back their social debts to us. So for me, a ring one friend offers unconditional reciprocity because they have such a deep sense of trust in the relationship. They know that in some way, shape, or form, you are going to repay your social debt to them. It's not something that they tally up in a handbook to guilt you with later. They help because helping you feels good, and they know you will always try to help in whatever ways that you can. I would also add here that ring one friends are the type of friends that you might even do something unpleasant for or go out of your way to assist because of that unconditional reciprocity. A great example is that last week I dog sat for my best friend Becky's dog Pumpkin, who, if you heard the episode last week, can be a little destructive. I love homegirl to death, but you definitely have to keep an eye on her. And so if you listened last week, then you know that Pumpkin literally ate one of Harlow's toys. Harlow is my dog. Now, if Becky were any other type of friend, I might say that I don't feel comfortable watching Pumpkin anymore, even though I know she's unemployed right now and I don't want her to waste money on a dog sitter. But again, and this is why she's a ring one friend and why I would still watch Pumpkin for her after this incident, is that I didn't even have to ask her to replace the toy. She immediately had another one reordered that night. And the thing is, I probably wouldn't have asked her to replace it, but the fact that she already did is just such a great example of the trust that I have in our relationship. Kat Velos has this beautiful quote that she picked out from another book called The Friendship Fix, and I want to read it for you. So when it comes to trust, trust is built when we have the opportunity to let someone down, but we don't. And that quote, it hit me so hard because that's exactly what I feel like in my relationship with Becky and anyone that's in my ring one circle. It's people who have the opportunity to let you down, but they never do. Well, I don't want to say never. Sometimes things happen. Life be lifing, as we know, but their intention is to never let you down, to always try and make things right within the relationship. So that's ring one. For ring two friends, these are friends that I would define as close friends. They are people that we get along with great, we share similar values and interests, we love spending time together, and we really value the relationship. But when life be lifing, we can often let a lot of time and distance go by before we talk again. So within the Seeds of Connection framework, there's still compatibility, there's still a high level of commitment or at least appreciation of the relationship, and there could even still be a sense of proximity, but the amount of times that you reach out to one another or hang out with one another is very infrequent. But I'll also say that this doesn't have to be a bad thing. They could easily be someone who used to be a ring one friend, but either someone moved away or you both still live in the same area, but are at different stages of life. Maybe you're still dating and mingling and one of your friends is now married with kids. So the rhythm at which you both live life now is just very different and you've naturally drifted apart. I want you to know that that is okay. Again, I want to offer this framework to you not as a way to rank and file your friends, but rather to help you get clarity on how to set expectations among those relationships. Because at the end of the day, I truly believe that we can only hold so many ring one friends at a time. Most of our friendships are going to be in the other rings, but that doesn't mean that they have to be seen as less than or low quality. I have plenty of people in my life who I see as ring two or ring three friends that I love and really enjoy. But I also understand that we can't always be there for each other. And if we're both mutually okay with that, then the relationship not only works, but it thrives. But if one of us is actually looking for more from the other, then that's when both parties need to get real about whether or not they can actually be that next ring type friend. You know, for Rachel, I think she sees our group as ring two friends. And I'm totally okay with that because I understand what she needs for someone to be a ring one friend. and being a whole continent and several time zones away, I understand the ways in which I can't meet her ring one needs. But I don't think that has to change how much fun we had when she came to visit, or that I still love her just as much as I know that she loves me. And I'll say that if you've been loving the hints of my furniture that I show in my stories, that's actually all because of Rachel. She hooked me up with her employee discount from the last place that she worked, and also, might I add, was super clear with me about expectations. That ordering furniture with me was like the third thing on her priority list every day. And, I really respected that because it really did help me manage my expectations in how often I was pestering her to order furniture. I wanted to be like, isn't this like the most fun you've ever had in your life ordering furniture? And she's like, no, Daysha, it's not. This is what I do on a daily basis. So no. But at the same time, because she was honest with me, that also made me more efficient about how we actually did the ordering, because I never wanted her to feel like I was disrespecting her time or that, this is something that she should have been doing for me. And we had the most beautiful spreadsheet. Let me tell you, this thing was color coded. We had a system. And I think it came out of this desire to really respect her time for her doing me such a big favor. And honestly, I'm going to say there is something truly so American about being slightly offended when people tell us their boundaries, and we want to make them the problem so bad. But no, it's us, y'all. It is us. When someone tells you their boundaries, we have to learn how to respect them. And we're definitely going to do a whole 3-part series on boundaries later in the season because it's such a crucial part of building and maintaining healthy relationships. All right, so ring 1 friends are best friends, ring 2 friends are close friends, so ring 3 friends are what I would call good friends. And I like to call them good friends because I would say the true foundation of this relationship is y'all having a good time together. These are the friends that I'd say we make when we're at work or in a class or doing a passion. And when we spend time together, especially within our shared interest, we really enjoy it. We have proximity, frequency, and compatibility, but our sense of commitment to one another isn't the strongest. And again, this isn't to say that we don't like them, but just that if they don't text me on my birthday or even know when my birthday is, I'm not butthurt about that. And I'd also mention that while we have some level of compatibility, that also might not be as aligned as a ring 1 or a ring 2 friend. Like maybe we both love salsa dancing, but they are pro-life and I'm pro-choice. So within the context of salsa dancing, we love to go out together and we have so much fun at the club, but I might mute them on Facebook because again, we have a good time together, but that good time is really limited to a particular shared interest. I think a great way to look at these kinds of friends is that with a ring 2 friend, you love who they are and enjoy the time you spend together. You don't necessarily need to have a shared interest to come together, like you're more than comfortable calling them up to just flop on your couch and watch a movie. Whereas with a ring 3 friend, you might not actually love who they are as a person, but when you're together within your shared interest, you enjoy them. These are friends that you don't necessarily need to like to have a good time with them. And I'd say that the level of depth that you have with that person really ranges. Like I have a friend that I met through playwriting, and when me and this person either see shows together or do writing stuff together, we really enjoy our time with one another. And in all honesty, I could definitely see them becoming a ring 2 friend because of the way this shared interest has deepened our relationship with one another. But I also have ring 3 friends where our relationship is so surface. It is just saying hi and bye, or how you doing and fine, and oh, your dog is cute and that haircut is so you, but it doesn't really go deeper than the compliments and the pleasantries. And again, that's okay. There is nothing wrong with that, and you can still hold love for these people. It just means that we're not going to lose our shit if they forget our birthday or don't come to our art show. And if they do remember or they do have time to support us, amazing. How kind of them. Like, you go, Glen Coco, you go ring 3 friend. I see you and I appreciate you. But they don't owe us their time any more than we owe them our time. Like in my 20s, I would get invited to so many events and parties and blah, 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 blah. And in my mind, I'd be like, oh, I have to go to this and I have to go to that because I want to be a good friend and I want to be supportive and I want to be, right? And then when I would throw things, all I would ever get from the same people that I try to support is, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm sick. I got shit to do. Excuse, whatever. And I used to get so upset. But the issue is that I'm sure these people just saw me as like a level 3 friend. And all I needed to do was give them level 3 energy. And I was giving them ring 1 energy. So again, this is all about how do we learn how to manage our expectations and give the right energy to the right people. And then the final ring is what I would call the friendly ring. I wasn't feeling the sound of ring 4. It didn't do it for me. So it's the friendly ring. These are people that we are nice and pleasant to. We probably see quite frequently, or we participate in a shared commitment like school or work, which puts us in close proximity, but there is little to no sense of commitment or compatibility. We wouldn't hang out with these people by choice, but when we are together, we try to make the interaction as smooth as possible. I will also say that this is also a ring that everyone goes through on their quest to deeper and stronger friendships. I'd even say that it's not that you don't have compatibility. Maybe you're actually extremely compatible, but you just don't know anything about each other yet. And thus your commitment or interest in the relationship might be low until an opportunity presents itself where you're like, oh, okay, I think you're kind of cool. I'm vibing. Let's connect some more. So just to recap, the word friend in English is such a vague ass word. I studied Italian when I was in college, parlo italiano, and I always loved how, so for example, in Italian, if you're telling someone that you love them, you will say it has a different meaning for the type of person that you're talking to. So if I'm talking to a friend or I'm talking to a family member, basically someone that's not my lover, I will say ti voglio bene, which translates as like, I wish well for you, literally. But if I was translating it in English, it means it's the same meaning as I love you. And you would use te amo for your lover. You would not use te amo for your family. You will look crazy. But I love that distinction because it just shows that when we use the word love, it is there are different levels and intensities to it. In the same way that, saying that like this person is my friend, like there are different levels to that. So to help get a sense of clarity on how your various non-sexual and non-familial relationships fit into your life, we can think about them as rings, where ring 1 friends are our best friends, the people we have a strong sense of compatibility with, a deep sense of commitment to the relationship, and we communicate with a varying degree of frequency. And then depending on your personal needs, there might also be people that we are in close proximity to as well. Ring 2 friends are our close friends, the people that we still have a strong sense of compatibility with and a deep sense of commitment to the relationship. But again, we either don't live in close proximity to them or our communication with them is super infrequent. But again, that doesn't mean that any love is lost when you do finally connect. It's like you can pick up right where you left off. Then there are ring 3 friends who are our good friends. These are people who we might not be all that compatible with, but we do have at least one shared interest or value between us. They tend to be people that we connect with frequently and are in close proximity to, but not always. A key difference though is that we are both not that committed to the relationship. Like when we do hang out, it's a fun time. But if the relationship ended for whatever reason, like if they were to move away or go to a different stage of life, we would not be bent out of shape about it. So there's a mutual understanding that there are little to no expectations on the other to be there for them. And then lastly, we have the friendly ring. These are typically people that we have a lot of proximity and frequency with, but there is little to no commitment and either no compatibility or there has not been an opportunity yet to explore compatibility. Your goal with these people is just to be nice and pleasant and not rock the boat. But at the same time, if y'all get into an argument about your differing values, you would not feel bashful at all about telling them to stick it where the sun don't shine. What a tongue twister. Also, why am I being bashful? You would tell them to fuck off. Like real talk. Or just not interact with them anymore. The goal is to be nice, but you don't feel like you owe them your niceness either. And again, I don't think this method should be used as a way to rank or devalue your relationships. As I said before, everyone has their own unique way of deciding which of these values matter a little bit more in what they consider a best friend or a close friend that could be influenced by a number of things. The goal with laying it out like this is just to help us all think about where people stand in our lives and, again, the level of energy that we give to them and the expectations that we have of them. It's also a great tool to use to think about how many people you consider a close friend or a good friend and what you can do to either take that relationship to the next level or ring, as well as, maybe there are relationships that you've been giving best friend energy to, but haven't been getting that energy in return. And so this can help you either shift them to a close friend or a good friend and relieve some tension for you. As always, I'd love to hear more about any discoveries or revelations these episodes create for you. So definitely feel free to either hit me up on social media. My handle is Daysha Veronica on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, everything. Join me on our free Facebook community. That link to that is in the show notes. Or you can hop on to the private group chat on Patreon, where there will be exclusive access to bonus content that you do not want to miss out on. Okay, bestie, I'll chat with you next session. I'm out. If you are loving Real Talk Friend Therapy, don't forget to show us some love with a 5-star review wherever you are listening, and to join our Patreon to unlock bonus recordings, videos, private chats, and more.